So, Jewish literary legacy. This is from Ammiel Hirsh. This is Yiddishkeit's or Judaism's legislative tradition to basically the Mishnah, the first written collection of the oral law. Oh, and this is all from Ammiel Hirsh. Okay, I think I said that. The Mishnah claims not to add new material to Yiddishkeit's Jewish legislative tradition, but shana, repeat. It claims that it's repeating the oral law. Since the Mishnah is believed to have been divinely revealed at Sinai, it's considered as sacred as the written Torah. In a sense, the oral Torah is considered even more authoritative because it explains the intention of the written law. And whenever it appears to contradict the written law, the oral Torah prevails because it is represented, because it represented the intent of the written law. So it forms the basis of the Talmud and is divided into 6 orders. In Hebrew, we say sedarim, each dealing with a broad area of Jewish life and subdivided into 63 smaller sections called tractates or masechot. And the rabbis mentioned in the Mishnah and responsible for compiling it were the Tanaim. So the Tana is the Aramaic shoresh being tani, to teach. So this is the Tana. One of the Tanaim is a Tana. It isn't just a legal code, it also includes being for legal decisions, commentaries, insights, interpretations, stories, lore, and often both sides of an argument are presented and without declaring a final legal decision. And it's generally accepted Rabbi Yehuda Nasi played the most instrumental role in organizing all the ancient traditions, including the Mishnah. It's said that he was a strict Hebrew user. The Mishnah is in Hebrew, which probably gave it greater authority, while at that time the vernacular was Aramaic. The Gemara became necessary to understand the Mishnah, and although the Mishnah was still the basis for Talmudic discussion, the Gemara became part of the Torah, Shabal Peh, the oral Torah. The Gemara is the commentary that elucidates the Mishnah, just as the Mishnah commented on the Chumash. Gemara completion. Gemara means a completion, mostly Aramaic, although Hebrew used as well. The Yerushalmi Gemara was completed around 400 CE. The Babylonian Iraqi Gemara was completed approximately 500 CE. The Babylonian one, became dominant, likely because of the position of dominance attained by the Babylonian leaders over Jewish affairs. And it's also, I heard, learned much bigger. The rabbis who studied the Mishnah and compiled the Gemara were known as the Amoraim. One Amora means to tell. So you teach, tell, and follow generally the Mishnah order, commenting line by line or word for word. And although the Mishnah was considered beyond contradiction, Amoraim referred to Tanaitic material that had been excluded from the Mishnah. Perhaps Yehuda Nasi and his colleagues thought the material wasn't important enough, or they weren't aware of it. Thus, they expanded the basic corpus of relevant Tanaitic material. The Amoraim often recalled in their discussions this excluded material called Baraita, or in plural Baraitot. And some of the Baraitot were from a collection of Tanaic statements called Tosefta. It's an Aramaic derivative of Hebrew, additions. Most likely, Tosefta collections were compiled in books by disciples and younger contemporaries of Yehuda Nasi, as well as other sages in succeeding generations. Talmud, to learn, equals Gemara, and Gemara plus Mishnah, as well as Tosefta and other Baraita material. So we have So, continuing, the Talmud contains not only so far we have teach, we have Tana from teach, right? Then we have Amora from tell. Then we have Gemara, which is actually Gemara is from Amora. Gemara is like completion. So first we have Shana, repeat. Shana, so this is Mishnah from repeat. Then we have the Tana from teach, Amora from tell. And then we have Talmud from learn. So I just thought that was interesting. So we're continuing now with how the Talmud contained not only legal material but also diverse topics such as dream interpretation, architecture, mathematics, medicine, science, astrology, astronomy, ethics, fables, magic, folklore, agriculture, history, legend, and geography. Upon reading the Talmud, one can sense their excitement and zest for learning, and can imagine being transported to a rabbinic academy of old, right in the middle of a Talmudic discussion or debate. From its completion until contemporary times, the Talmud was considered primarily a legal text, and it was there that halacha, laws and codes of behavior, could be discovered, as well as mores of civil and criminal law, ritual and religious detail. However, alongside Talmud, another huge genre of literature developed, which is midrash. So we have darosh, like you have midrash. So D-A-R-O-S-H from midrash, we have means search. From search or examine. So a midrash is usually referring to a particular explanation or discussion, although it's technically a method through which the deeper meaning of biblical text can be extracted. Midrash came to fill in the gaps, the unanswered questions of the often terse Bible writing style, and in the process discovers the underlying principles of the biblical text, ethical, moral, legal, theological. And midrash agada again refers to tell in a way, or to speak, right? So agada refers to halachic material, to non-halachic materials and lessons. So we have agada from speaking, and we have halacha from direction. Halacha would be considered laws or codes. Okay, so midrash agada. So now we have agada is characterized by stories, legends, parables, homilies, theological statements, and ethical moral pronouncements. While midrash halacha so we have midrash halacha and midrash agada. And midrash halacha specifically developed around halachic literature. The classical midrashim, it is thought, were created and compiled from the Tanaitic period ending 200 CE through the medieval period. Various sermons, homilies, and teachings were eventually transcribed and collected by different editors and organized according to subject matter. Thus, you have Bereshis Rabbah, Genesis Rabbah, and is focused on Sefer book of Genesis, Bereshis, and then you have same with Shemos Rabbah being on the book of Shemos, Sefer of the Exodus, the Sefer Shemos, book of the Exodus. Many people believe the greatest Talmudic commentator was Shlomo ben Yitzchak, Rashi, born 1040 in France. You've sure heard me mention him on this channel, and where he was said to have encyclopedic knowledge of the Talmud, Gaonic literature, the literature produced by the Gaonim. The Gaonim were the heads of the Babylonian academies, and Midrashim, and he used all this knowledge. The Gaonim were the 6th to 10th centuries. Plus Gaonim, we have here The Gaonim, and he used all this knowledge in explicating the intricacies and complexities of the Talmud. The Talmud doesn't contain punctuation, so Rashi provided it. Where it was difficult to discern who was speaking, Rashi identified the inquirer and responder, and often explained the meaning of obscure passages, and supplied historical data, explained various customs, determined the location of geographic places, and was instrumental in explicating certain Aggadic, Talmudic passages. During Rashi's lifetime, for the next 150 years, scholars developed a particular type of Talmudic commentary called Tosefot, additions, right? We didn't call it Tosefta, this is Tosefot, which contain comments, commentaries, discussions, and decisions on points of law and analysis, all based on the Talmud and characterized by its logic, brilliance in analyzing complex legal discussions. And the Talmud is not an organized code. It contains a huge corpus of material, only a portion of which has to do with halacha. Plus, it's extraordinarily complex and challenging, even to the brightest scholars. Therefore, the codifiers sought to reorganize all the relevant halachic material into a concise volume, stating laws briefly and decisively, providing clear-cut practical rules without having to be encumbered by many pages and complex wording and marginal materials. The codes were written throughout the Gaonic period, most notably the Halachic Gedolot and Isaac Alfasi Sefer HaHalachot. The first comprehensive and most influential code of the post-Gaonic period was the Mishnah Torah, the second law of the Torah, by Moses ben Maimonides, Rambam. In Hebrew, completed in 1180, he was considered a genius in the disciples of law, logic, philosophy, mathematics, astronomy, and medicine. In arranging Jewish law, he argues this code would eliminate the need for other halachic books to know the law. A person would only need to read the Chumashim and Mishnah Torah. And although widely acclaimed, it wasn't universally accepted. Plus, he rarely cited his sources, and it was difficult to ascertain whether he'd taken in all the relevant material in reaching a decision. Plus, his critics feared his code would diminish the value of the Talmud itself. In 1475, Rabbi Jacob ben Ashur compiled Arba'a Turim, 4 rows, aka the Turim. In 1555, Joseph Cairo published the Shulchan Aruch, the prepared table, meant to be a study guide to his much larger code called Beit Yosef, which presented final decisions with absolute authority based on the 3 earlier codes from Maimonides, Jacob ben Ashar, and Isaac Alfasi, where he compared these older codes and considered a legal opinion definitive if it was held by at least 2 out of 3. So we say 2/3. Where there was no clear opinion among the 3, he drew his own based upon the original source in the Talmud. The Shulchan Aruch was generally accepted as authoritative by Sephardic Jewry. Cairo was originally from Spain, which is Sephard, and later on by Ashkenazic Jewry, following various alterations, primarily by Rabbi Moses Isserles. The Masoretes divided chapters and verses and added values, accents, and punctuation. The Masorah equals the tradition. It comes from the word tradition. So we have the Masorah from tradition. And it's the weekly portions, the parshas that they divided. It's not from, so I've said many times, the parsha, it means that week's portion. They divided it. Not from one generation or school, but represents several generations of scholars who worked on biblical grammar, lexicology, and the great academies of study in Israel and Iraq. Assumedly, this began the 16th century, completed by the 10th century. Various grammatical rules and traditions had been orally transmitted and memorized by succeeding scholarly generations, and so consequently there were many different traditions of reading and no standard biblical text used by the entire Jewish community. The Masoretes standardized the Hebrew text and likely invented the vowel signs and punctuation marks in an attempt to reflect what they thought to be the original pronunciations, and they established a system for accurately copying the Bible. This is an invaluable contribution prior to the age of printing. Other prominent medieval commentators: Samuel ben Meir, who's the Rashbam, Rashi's grandson; Abraham ibn Ezra; David Kimchi, called the Radak; and Moses ben Nachman, who's Nachmanides or Ramban; and 19th century commentators Malbim and Samson Raphael Hirsh. And we'll stop here. Wish you all the best. Bye.